I was told the only reason that I was hired by the city was because the city wanted a colored man. And the lady actually used that word, colored man.
Brothers and sisters, brothers and sisters, I don't know what this world is coming to.
You're listening to the Black and Blue Podcast, a discussion and celebration of the roles of African Americans and other minorities in U.S. law enforcement. Your host on the Black and Blue Podcast is Dale Peters, a law enforcement professional with over 20 years experience in the business. Hop on board this Black and Blue train of interviews, current events, and pop culture conversations. So get ready. The Black and Blue Podcast is coming at you right now. What's going on, y'all? Welcome to the latest edition of the Black and Blue Podcast, where we celebrate diversity in U.S. law enforcement. Of course, my name is Dale, and I'm the host. Thank you for joining me for this episode, because I got another good one for you. But first, let me ask you, please, click those like, subscribe, and bell icons right down here on my YouTube channel. And if you listen to me on your favorite podcast platform of choice, make sure you rate the Black and Blue Podcast 5 stars. And finally, make sure you check me out on any one of my social media pages for even more content. You can find me everywhere at Black and Blue US. All right, so now that we did that, hey, let's do this. Today's guest is the chief of police of a growing community in the Minneapolis, Minnesota area. So everybody, let's give a warm Black and Blue welcome to Golden Valley, Minnesota Police Chief Virgil Green. How you doing, sir?
Hey, I'm doing good, brother. How you doing?
Man, I cannot call it, man. I'm just out here in SoCal dealing with this 100-degree heat in October.
Hey, man, I think a lot of people are surprised at just how warm it is in California, Las Vegas, and even back home in Oklahoma, just how warm it is in October.
Yeah, and they say global warming's not a thing, right? They try to sell us on that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it definitely is a thing. It's been in the hundreds, and it's been crazy everywhere. We've had fires and all sorts of stuff out here, and then we got hurricanes down in Florida, so it's a thing. It's a real thing.
Yeah, it is, and obviously, thoughts and prayers go out to those families out in just dealing with the hurricanes in North Carolina and all of parts of Florida, and now it appears there's going to be another hurricane that's moving that way. So, but I tell you, I've been to Asheville, North Carolina before in a conference, and to see the devastation that community had from the outflow of the hurricane, it's mind-boggling. It really is to see how and that's a really nice community in Asheville, North Carolina.
Yeah, and I think even all the way up to Atlanta got affected. So
yeah, it did. Yeah. And like I said, again, I was just looking at the news earlier that there's another hurricane that's getting ready to hit part of the country.
Yeah. It ain't one thing, it's another. But let's get through that so we can get through this show here today. Hey, I appreciate you coming on to the show. You mentioned that you back home is Oklahoma. Is that what you said?
Yeah. So originally, Dale, I was born and raised in southeast New Mexico in a city called Hobbs, New Mexico, and born and raised there, which is Hobbs is on the southeast part of the state of New Mexico, close to the New Mexico, Texas border. But yeah, that's where I was born and raised, and moved away from Hobbs in 1989 and moved to Oklahoma City, and been in Oklahoma City ever since, until I had a couple of stints moving around the country as being a police chief.
Wow, New Mexico, huh? That's one place you don't normally see Black folks in. What was it like growing up there?
Dale, so I was at a Nazareth conference up in Phoenix not a couple of months ago, and got picked up from the airport, and I was telling the same story I had from New Mexico, and the brother said, "Man, I never knew Black people be in New Mexico." I said, "Yeah."
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, so
We are
it's
everywhere.
yeah, we are, and how my family got there is from East Texas to New Mexico. Obviously, it's not a big area where there's you would think, where it's agricultural, where there's farming. It's not that type of a community. It's an oil and gas community, and so there was an Air Force base back there back in the day in the 30s and 40s that kind of disappeared. But yeah, so and actually, Dale, one of the things I found out this past year, because I'm involved with I'm the vice president of our Juneteenth committee in Hobbs, and found out that outside of Albuquerque, New Mexico, which is the largest city in the state of New Mexico, Hobbs had the second largest Black population in the state of New Mexico. So a lot of African Americans call Hobbs, New Mexico, home because of the school systems, and apparently there was the jobs were okay, but yeah. So proud to say that I went to Hobbs High School, and it's known for to be one of the best high school basketball programs in the country.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I would beg to differ. I know we got a few out here in California. So,
Well, and Dale, man, when I was growing up, we have a basketball holiday tournament that happens during the holiday around right outside of Christmas. And
mm,
there's teams that would come from California and Arizona to play in the Hobbs holiday basketball tournament. So, uh,
okay.
yeah, and so we had a coach that has since passed away. His name is Ralph Tasker, known all around for basketball in the state of New Mexico and outside of the state of New Mexico. So that tournament, it still is probably one of the longest running holiday high school basketball tournaments in the country.
Nice, nice.
So
So
I get
then
to
you
share with
left.
you a little of my history of New
Yeah,
Mexico.
love that, love that. But then you left New Mexico and then went to Oklahoma. And
Yeah,
what
yes,
was
sir.
life for you like in Oklahoma?
It was definitely a trend. When I moved from New Mexico to Oklahoma, people were saying how cold it was going to be in Oklahoma. In Oklahoma was Tornado Alley, and
Yes.
so I experienced some of that, but it was definitely a much more bigger area. And so when I first moved there, was in the private sector before I got back into law enforcement, and got back in law enforcement right after the Murrah bombing of the federal building in Oklahoma City. And I was a patrol officer with the Oklahoma City Housing Authority, which patrolled all of Oklahoma City metro area public housing, and did that for about 6 years. And then I ended up getting an opportunity to become a police chief in 2000. So for about 6 or 7 years, I was a patrol officer with the Oklahoma City uh, Housing Authority Police Department.
All right, all right. Love it, love it. And so you were out in Oklahoma. Did you bring the family with you?
Yeah. So my I was my wife then. We had two kids, a son and a daughter, and that was actually one of the reasons of moving to Oklahoma. My ex-wife, her family moved from New Mexico, from Hobbs to Oklahoma, and an odd story, Dale. We came up to visit during Thanksgiving, and it snowed, so we could not leave to go back for a couple of days, and just really liked the area of Norman, Oklahoma, where the University of Oklahoma is at. And I ended up taking a test for the Oklahoma Highway Patrol. And when I took the test, I didn't realize how many people was taking the test, and was over 700 people taking the test that day. And I ended up passing, but it was a
Wow.
long process, and so they were hiring one trooper for every county in Oklahoma, and there's 77 counties. So,
Okay.
and Dale, it kind of puts back into perspective, Dale, when we talk about where policing was at, or law enforcement was at back in the late 80s and
Yep.
90s.
Yep.
where, man, if you had 5 positions open, you would have 500 people applying for those
Yeah.
positions. And here we are decades later, and you can have 5 positions open, and you may only get 10 applicants, you
Right.
know.
Yep.
So,
What
so
what do
they,
you, what do you attribute that to? I know a lot of it was 2020 and just changes in perspectives and ideas of policing, right?
yeah. And I think, and since then, Dale, I jump a little fast forward, I'm in the Minneapolis area where the incident that happened with George Floyd. And it was really surprising to hear how many people got out of law enforcement after the death of George Floyd. And a lot of people went on PTSD and mainly PTSD. And
Okay.
so that was a concern. I had a lot of questions about why, even those who were not directly impacted with the George Floyd murder, they got out of law enforcement. And so that's still been a question that I haven't been able to get the answers to, as to why did people feel that they needed to get out of law enforcement after that incident happened, because we didn't see that. And you're from California, we didn't see that when
Yeah.
Rodney King happened.
Right.
That was a big event with Rodney King, and you didn't see people leaving law enforcement then.
Yeah. The difference is, for me, that was one of the catalysts for me wanting to join law enforcement, was the Rodney King incident. I'm showing my age there, but
Hey,
seeing
you're not
that
that old,
was,
brother.
yeah. But seeing that incident made me want to get into law enforcement and kind of hope to change the system. If not,
Hmm.
if not on a macro scale, at least on a micro scale, that at least one, there'll be one officer that the community wouldn't have to worry about in that sense.
Yeah,
And then fast forward to now to George Floyd, seems like the opposite.
yeah. And again, I've even talked about this on our platform, is the fact that this, this was the result, the death of a black man. And how could another race feel that that impacted them that much that they needed to get out of this profession? Um, or was it a easy way to get out and to benefit from it? Because one of the things, Dale, that I've seen here in Minnesota is that it has definitely benefited people to get out of the profession, to take a PTSD medical, and to pretty much, they didn't lose any money. They actually gained money. So that's been a concern that I have had. That why did it take the death of George Floyd for people to want to get out of the profession, and then to some point take advantage of it? Because there wasn't a lot of questions related to, hey, do you really have a medical uh, problem for you to take this PTSD,
Yeah.
um, a way of getting out?
Right. Right. Yeah, that's unfortunate. People are taking advantage of that situation so that they can, take an early retirement. But
Yeah.
we are here now, and we're still trying to grow this profession. Every agency from coast to coast right now is dealing with it.
Hmm.
You're in Minnesota. What was that transition like for you from Oklahoma to Minnesota? I know there's a big difference, right?
Oh yeah, moving halfway across the country into the unknown, and to tell the my journey and my story getting into the agency that I am now, is that um, I'm the first Black police chief for this city of Golden Valley. So there was a lot of things that I was looking at. Is this where I want to take my career, move my family to, and also uh, become a piece of history, becoming the first African American police chief for the city of Golden Valley Police Department. Um, but then I quickly found out, Dale, that it was met with a lot of challenges, and it was. I got here in May, and to be honest with you, when I went back home, drove back home to Oklahoma City in July for the 4th of July weekend, uh, I really had a lot of questions about, do I really want to go back because of everything that I was dealing with? And
Really?
so it was, even on my first day, Dale, I was told the only reason that I was hired by the city was because the city wanted a colored man. And the lady actually used that word, colored
The
man.
word colored, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
she was stuck in the 1960s, right?
yeah. And
Yeah.
she was a former, so she was a former council member for the city. And she said,
Wow.
I support Barack Obama and I'm a Democrat. And I'm like, okay, but you know, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And
Right.
so then it became, man, I was in the newspaper almost every week, uh, on the local news because of just the dynamics of where people did not want to see a black police chief in this city. And then the agency started, uh, officers started leaving the agency. Um, and so there was a lot of things that
How?
I wasn't expecting coming in as a new police chief, because I'm thinking, and the city does not have a crime problem, which
Yeah.
I think a lot of police chiefs, we're not that fortunate to have those type of to have that luxury of not having a serious crime problem in your city. And so the city I'm in, it's just a lot of property crimes. And so uh, there's no violent crimes or anything like that. So I'm thinking, man, this is going to be a great position to be in. And how can I grow the agency? Uh, and, just put some of the things that I've learned over my almost 30-year career in law enforcement into this agency. But um, it was met with a lot of resistance and a lot of challenges.
Wow. Talk about the city of Golden Valley real quick, so we can get a little idea of the
Eh,
city. Where is
This,
it in relation to
it,
Minneapolis and all that?
yeah. So the city of Golden Valley is a suburb to Minneapolis. We're on the west
Okay.
side of Minneapolis. So we border north and south Minneapolis. And the city of Golden Valley is a first ring suburb city. And one of the things, Dale, that I was really surprised about when I got there, people was like, "Oh, General Mills," and the cereal company.
Okay.
Well, that is their headquarters is located in the city where I am the police chief at.
Okay.
Uh, and that just blew. I was like, "Wow, this major Fortune 500 company is right here in the city where
Yeah.
I am." And then there is another Fortune. So they've got a lot of Fortune 500 companies in Golden Valley. It is predominantly a white city. Over 90% is white. The police department was over pretty all white. Um, and so it was a city that the city was trying to do some things to change the culture of the city, but it was met with so much resistance. So, and I have to say, I've met a lot of great people since I've
Yeah.
been in Golden Valley, and a lot of people that I wouldn't think will be supportive are very supportive. And so it is a good community, but once again, it hasn't been a community that has been welcoming to people who look like you and I.
Wow, that's surprising because in that area, you would think they'd be kind of, used to seeing people of color in that area and, kind of be
And I
used to
said,
it and deal with it.
yeah, and I said, the police department there had been two uh, federal lawsuits against the police department because of their uh, contacts with black men. And
Wow.
one of them I met who who is a musician. He was awarded a federal lawsuit. He ended up writing a book about his experience traveling from North Minneapolis to Golden Valley to play at different venues in Golden Valley. And so I think a lot of black people who lived in North Minneapolis it was known you don't drive through Golden Valley. You figure another way to get around Golden Valley. And so,
Wow.
yeah, again, that wasn't what I was expecting to experience when I came from Oklahoma City to the Minneapolis area.
Yeah. And how long have you been there now?
Almost 2 years. Came
Mhm.
here in May of 2022. Yeah, so a
And
little over
how's it
two
going
years.
now? How's it
It's
going
getting
now?
better. And I say, Dale, we got down, so the city is budgeted to have 31 police officers. Um, and that's including the command staff. We got down to four police officers. Um,
Wow.
four. And we end up having to uh, partner with the Hennepin County Sheriff's Office to provide. We could patrol the city at night, but we couldn't patrol the city in the daytime. So we signed a contract with them for their deputies to patrol the city while we rebuild the police department and hire and train police officers. And over the past year and a half, it's been really great. I mean, we are back up to um, about 15 to 16 police officers. Um,
Mhm.
and all of our sergeants' ranks have been filled. And so here we are. Really expecting by the end of this month, October going into November, that we're able to have our officers back working um, both day shift and night shift. So in a very short period of time. And a lot of people didn't expect that we would be able to recover because there were people, Dale, that were encouraging. There were people in the law enforcement in this area that were encouraging people not to apply for Golden Valley. You don't want to go to work in Golden Valley. They've got poor leadership. The county is going to take them over. So again, I think it was all about um, it was all about the color of who I was, my assistant chief. She was the first Black female assistant chief in the agency. She came before I did. She was a sergeant with the Minneapolis Police Department, and so it was a culture shock to people seeing people of color in the command staff at the police department. And I call it the way I see it, Dale.
Yeah.
If there had been anybody else sitting in that chair, would people have gotten up and left the agency? And I don't think that would have happened.
That's crazy because they didn't even know you. They just saw what you looked like
Yeah,
and made their decision based on that.
yeah. Dale, and I said this many times before. I think we are probably one of the most segregated professions there are in the workforce, because you can go into any restaurant and you will probably see uh, Black officers sitting over here and white officers sitting over there. It, it and not in every state, especially when you get down south where you see more people who look like you and I in law enforcement. But there's just some areas of the United States where uh, even to give you an example, I attended uh, a Minneapolis police officer who was killed in the line of duty a couple of months ago, Mitchell. And man, I didn't really have anybody come up and really speak to me at that funeral service, but we were there to uh, honor the life of this young man who was killed in the line of duty. And that was my first experience of just seeing how we don't communicate with each other. And even me being the police chief, I didn't have people come up saying, "Hey, chief, it's nice to meet you." But with me being in the news so much, the first year or so when I was here, a lot of people kind of formed their opinions about who I was based on what they had heard from other people in this area.
Wow. Yeah. And you had to implement some changes there. What sort of culture changes were you able to implement?
Well, so one of the things, Dale, is that the agency is now more diverse than it has ever been. We
Okay.
have our first Black female police officer, young black female. Uh, we have our first black Somali police officer. Um, yeah, my assistant chief, Rudy Perez, who is out of California. He is the first uh, Latino assistant chief. So the agency definitely looks different than it has in the history of the agency. And so, and I've told people it's not about, it is about diversifying the agency, but it's also making sure you're putting the most qualified people in those positions so they can grow.
Yes.
So it's not just about the color of your skin, but it's also about um, putting the right person in those roles.
Yeah. Yeah. And that all, not just putting those people in those roles, but, all the way down to to line level patrol officers, people that have different experiences.
Yeah,
And they bring that with them to the police department so that they can, bring that to the streets and people that they contact.
yeah. Well, and again, the city of Golden Valley, as I shared with you, is over 90% white.
Yeah.
There are a lot of very influential black people who do live in Golden Valley, um, and and they've been living there for 30, 40 years, and so uh, this is their first time being able to see a black female outside of the city of Minneapolis in Golden Valley driving a patrol car in a uniform. And so that has been one of the most proudest things that I have been able to accomplish is to diversify the agency. And so because we need to look like the community that we're patrolling. And since there are African Americans and there are Somali Americans who live in Golden Valley, now they're able to feel more comfortable when they do need to communicate with the police.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not just the residents. I mean, you got a daytime population too of,
Oh,
people that work there and people that
yeah,
shop there and all that. Right.
yeah, yeah. And, Dale, and our daytime population doubles. I mean, we're a city of over 23,000 people, but just with the daytime it goes to about over 80,000 people
Yeah.
because of all of the businesses that we have in Golden Valley and just the traffic. We're surrounded by three major highways, and all those highways come through Golden Valley. So um, again, it's just not just the people who live there; it's the people that pass through, and as you mentioned, who shop and eat, and who are commuting from city to city. And that's real important.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned earlier you discussed things on your platform. What platform is that?
So, Dale, about 4 years ago, me and a friend of mine who was the chief in Norman, Oklahoma, Keith Humphrey, right at the pandemic, and actually, Dale, I ran for Oklahoma County Sheriff in um, the first time in 2017 and lost in a special election by 700 votes, man. And I didn't know anything about running for office.
Yeah.
I was still the police chief in Helena, West Helena, Arkansas, and but I still had my home in Oklahoma City. My family was still there, and so then I ran again in 2020, and right at the height of the pandemic, we didn't know. Obviously, we didn't know what we were, you know, going to be dealing with in this pandemic. And
Yeah.
so we ended up starting a podcast show called You and the Law Podcast Show. And we air live every Thursday where we talk about topics just like you do on your podcast show about policing in America. And so to our surprise, people tune in and they the topics that we talk about. Let's connect with people because here we are for 4 years later, and we're still doing our thing.
Nice, nice. Is he still in Oklahoma?
No,
Your
so
partner?
chief, yeah, so he is actually the chief at the University of Memphis now. Uh, he
Okay.
left uh, he left Norman. He was the chief in Little Rock, Arkansas, for golly, about 5 years, 5 or 6 years, and then he retired from Little Rock and He thought he was going to get out of the profession, but he ended up getting back in, and and he's the chief at the University of Memphis.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
And so yeah. So, but you're still doing the podcast, so that's good. And
yeah.
yeah, yes, I definitely hear the Oklahoma accent. You're gonna start getting the Minnesotan accent
No,
anytime soon.
no.
Hey, Chief,
Eh,
you there long enough, you're gonna get it. You're gonna get it.
well, I don't think so, brother. I don't know. Because I've heard. I'm pretty sure you've heard and met people from South Dakota and North Dakota, and you hear that
Yeah,
Wisconsin and Minnesota, and it's like people will say, "Oh wow, man, you're not from around here. You speak you speak different." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm from New
yeah,
Mexico." And Dale, a funny thing, man. When I first moved to Oklahoma, people would say, "Man, you speak good English," and I'm like, "Yeah, because I'm American." And people actually thought that I was Mexican, and I'm like, "No, I'm black." I and so that was funny that people thought just because I was from New Mexico, that I had to be Spanish and I spoke good English.
yeah. Hey, that's not a bad thing though. You
No,
know,
no, no.
if you know another language, it's all good.
Yeah,
It's all good.
yeah.
And you acclimated to Minnesota now? Are you a Viking now, or
Oh no, man. I'm a Buffalo Bills fan. Uh,
wait? I don't see the connection. Help me out there.
it's a connection because of a family member. So Von Miller, uh,
Okay, yeah,
his so Von's mom and I are families are connected, and his mom is from Hobbs, New Mexico, born and raised, and so that's so when he got drafted by the Denver Broncos, um, followed him there, and then he went to L.A. and now he's in Buffalo. So that's kind of I'm not one of those bandwagons because growing up, Dale, I was either you had to be a Dallas Cowboy fan or
yes, I'm sure.
and so growing up, I played football in high school, and so I was a Philadelphia Eagles fan because I was a wide receiver, and uh, Earl Carmichael was a wide receiver, so I had his number 81. So I was more of a Philadelphia Eagles fan more than I was a Cowboys fan, and I
All
took a lot
right,
of heat
yeah,
over that.
I'm sure you did. You know, Eagles and Giants. Yeah,
Yeah,
Eagle that whole division. They like
yeah,
this. That whole
yeah,
division. Absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely.
exactly. Yeah.
Yep. So where's Golden Valley PD headed now? That under your leadership.
It is definitely headed in a positive direction. I've got two good assistant police chiefs in Alice White and Rudy Perez, and got a young department. And my whole thing, my vision is to make these officers, give them the tools and the resources to become better police officers. Um, and to make sure that they have that professional uh, growth throughout their careers. And we do have a lot of opportunities. We have as small as an agency as we are, we do have a SWAT unit. We have a drone unit. We have a bike. We just implemented a bike patrol unit. We've got a community engagement unit that we're putting together. So there's a lot of opportunities that people can get in an agency this size. And I've always told people, hey, if you want to spend 20 years at this department, great. But also, how can I help you grow to where maybe you want to go to a larger agency? So when you do decide to make that move, you'll fit into that organization. So
Yeah.
that's just the type of leader I've been over the last 25 years as being a police chief, is being able to help people grow and put them in positions that they can look back and say, hey, somebody helped me along the way.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
And on that note, what even got you into law enforcement in the first place? What was that journey like for you?
Yeah. So man, my uncle was a police officer in Hobbs, and I had two uncles who were police officers out in your state in California. I had one who was in San Bernardino. Then I had one who was in a city outside of San Bernardino. And so my uncle got me involved in the Police Explorers probably when I was 10 years old. And and even then I was the first black kid in the Police Explorers. And so I would do ride-alongs with him. And it was just something that I said, hey, this is what I want to do if I can't play football. And so that's what got me into to this profession, and I've been in it. Like I said, actually, he got me my first job, Dale, with the Lee County Sheriff's Office in 1984. So I'm kind of telling my age a little bit. So
Yes.
and so I worked for the Lee County Sheriff Department for a number of years, and then I went, obviously moved from New Mexico to Oklahoma. So that's how I really got uh, uh, into this profession was uh, through what my uncle was encouraging me to do, and he's still around, and so he told me a couple of weeks ago that the things that I've been able to do, he's proud of that, and so it's good to see that I've been able to leave my impression in this profession based on being around him.
Absolutely. And you've progressed, to different levels, various levels in law enforcement. Talk about the most rewarding part now as chief. What's your most rewarding part of your job?
Dale, it's being able to put things. So I've been to. So I was a police chief in Oklahoma City area for a number of years, and then I went to Arkansas. I was police chief for a city in Arkansas for a number of years, and now here I am up in Minnesota. And so the one thing that I've been able to look at is what can I leave behind? How can I make things look better than it was when I walked into the door? And so a lot of those things, that's been one of my main purpose and goals is to leave an agency better than it was when I came into the door. And so, um, and again, you don't see a lot of us in these positions across the country. When you do have those opportunities, it's not about me, and I've met so many other police chiefs. It's not about them. It's about leaving kind of a legacy and making it better for that next person who comes in and sits in that office that you're sitting in. And so, um, it's for me. It's always been about how can I help somebody else, uh, uh, because maybe I didn't have that same mentor or that same help. So that's what it's meant for me is how can I really help grow, um, either my those in my command staff or those young police officers.
Yep. Yep. Good stuff. And then on the flip side, what's been a more challenging part of your job?
I have to say, man, I've been at, at every agency that I've been at, except and I didn't mention. So when I was a police chief in a small rural town 65 miles from Oklahoma called Boley, Oklahoma. Um, it is known for having a all black rodeo on Memorial Day weekend. And it's a city less than 2,000 people, man. But on that Memorial Day weekend, Dale, the city has probably about 25 to 30,000 people that comes to the city, the town for that event. Um, and so it is the things that I was able to accomplish there. I can still see when I go back to that city or to that town because of a brand new police department. And I look on the wall, and here's my name on the wall as being a part of the city when that building was built. And so I think being a police chief, you're going to have a lot of challenges that you really don't talk to a lot of people about. And I think for me, this experience that I had here in the city where I am now in Golden Valley, Minnesota, has probably been the most challenging experience because it was so public, Dale. I one thing, the thin blue line, the flag, is a symbol in policing. And I did a social media post a little over a year ago, recognizing, I want to say it was National Police Appreciation Week or something, and I used the thin blue line flag.
Yeah.
And some people said, "Oh man, that's offensive to the Black community, and you need to take that down." And I'm like, it's a symbol. It's not. It has
Yeah.
nothing to really to do with any community. It's just a symbol, and so unfortunately, it that social media post was removed. And Dale, man, I got a lot of hate mail from people in our profession all around the country. Then I was a disgrace to my profession. I needed to be fired. I needed to resign. And I'm just like, that it took me back to, again, what is the culture of policing that
Yes.
people were so um it was all about a flag, and they thought that I was disrespecting the flag. And I even came out, Dale, with a comment basically saying this wasn't to be disrespectful. This was to honor the men and women in policing. Uh, and when people are offended by it, they shouldn't be offended behind a simple. And so, it was very disturbing. I got an email from the colonel of the Indiana State Patrol, who
Mm.
basically said that, "Hey, you don't need to be in the position that you're in." And I'm just like, how did it reach to that level
Wow.
that a
Now,
person
was that
that
for
was
taking the post down or
it
putting
was
it up in
for
the first place?
it was for taking it down, and
Okay.
the message that I had put out about why um it was taken down.
Okay.
And so even in my own agency, Dale, that police officers, I explained to them the why behind it. This is what I supported, and they took it a different way. And so yeah, I mean, when I say just getting the type of Mandel, I think I probably got over 1,000 emails from around the country and even outside of the country about that thin blue line. And actually, Dale, it was the same at the same time that the LA, the police chief with the LA Police Department had came out and said that he was removing the thin blue line flags from inside of the stations throughout LA. And
Yeah,
he didn't
we
take
we
that much.
had yeah, we had an incident, not an incident, but we had the same thing go on in my department. Outside one of our buildings, we had, a big flagpole with a huge, gigantic flag that we usually fly, either an
Hmm.
American flag or a POW flag or what have you, the state of California flag. And at one point, they were flying a huge blue line flag, and
Hmm.
I guess that got met with some protest or something, and they took that down too. So
Yeah, yeah. And so I want to say, I think it was Chief Moore. I think he was a chief a couple of years ago when this
yeah,
happened with LA, and he did not face the criticism that I faced. He faced some, but yeah, that was probably one of the most um, disturbing things that I've experienced in my career as being a police chief. Just the backlash from a symbol of a flag, and how people were. And again, it's almost like the politics of what we're dealing with in
in
around our
today's
country,
world.
man.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, but yeah, people, you have to have uh, you have to have some tough skin to be in this position, because
Amen.
everything that you can't take it personal, and I've never taken anything personal. It's always been about, hey, I'm not perfect. If I'm not, nobody is perfect, and if I'm wrong, I will own up to that. But if I'm right,
Yeah.
I'm gonna stick to that principle.
Yep. And it's always been a tough position, but us in law enforcement, we got to face the music, like you just said. You mentioned earlier that you had some children. Did any of them want to follow in dad's footsteps and face that fire like you?
No, no.
No,
I got two sons. No,
they're like,
they
nah, dad, you can have all that smoke. We don't want
yeah,
it.
yeah. So I've got an older son and I've got a younger son that's 23 and had no ambitions to ever even think about being in law enforcement.
Yeah, yeah. And that's unfortunate that a lot, not just from your family, but I've seen a lot of people in that generation nowadays, because we were talking about how, there would be lines around the block to get our
Hmm.
positions back when we first came in. And nowadays, it seems like this and for a number of reasons, not just, the anti law enforcement, but, there are other avenues that they can pursue as well. Right.
Yeah. Well, and again, I think it's the market,
Yeah.
and again, I think it's upon us in policing of how do we market our agencies and how do we market what we're doing. I mean, what we do is all about serving the public. And if you have a service mind that you want to give back to your community, whether you do it in policing or be a firefighter, uh, there's choices and there's those opportunities. And again, I just think it's just how we get out and we talk about uh, culture policing and encouraging more uh, minorities to get into this profession, because there is a lot of there's a lot of rewards that come with it, and it's not
Yeah.
all bad. And again, I just think, there's something that I learned uh, when I went to a big meeting with the NBA when I don't know if you remember, Dale, when Hurricane Katrina hit, the Hornets. A lot of people forget that the Hornets moved from New Orleans to Oklahoma City to finish out that end of the season, and ended up starting the other season in Oklahoma City. And so I attended a meeting with the commissioner, George, and the NBA owners with the Hornets and Willis Reed. And this is where Willis Reed, the all-time one of the 50th greatest basketball players, he was the vice
Yeah.
president of operations for the Hornets. So I got a chance to really meet with him and connect with him. And he invited me to come to a meeting. And one of the things I took away from that deal was the brand. The NBA is all about the brand. And
Hmm.
I don't think we've done a really good job in our profession of branding ourselves to want people to come into this profession, because as you've seen, so many different things have happened across the country, whether it's with, Rodney King to Michael Brown, George Floyd to Sonia Massey. And it discourages people to get into to this profession. But those bad things outweigh the good that people can bring into this profession, especially uh, connecting with our youth in the communities, because we want people need to look, the people that you're connecting with need to look like you, or you
Yes.
need to look like them. And so I think, again, it's all about um, marketing. Every department has a way of marketing themselves to grow. And I think, I was at this past year attended the National Law Enforcement Memorial in DC. And Dale, man, when I saw there was probably four charter buses from LA County and LA Police Department there, and I was like, man, you guys got to have a huge budget to fly people halfway across the
Oh yeah.
country. But to see the 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 diversity in the LA County Sheriff Department, in the LA Police Department, and all the other agencies that came from the West Coast, goes to show you that it's not a profession that people are running away from. You do see people who want to get into this profession for all the right reasons.
All the right reasons, yeah. And because, like I mentioned earlier, why I got into it, my why was because of those atrocities that I saw. I wanted to be a part of that change. So, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
hopefully other
and
people have that same vision.
yeah, and for me, that's another reason. If I can play a small role in changing the culture of policing, because I'm a firm believer that we definitely need to change the culture of policing to make sure that the things that we have seen uh, don't happen. And if they do happen, we need to be able to step up and address those issues with our communities, because again, this is all about the people that we serve. And so that's what's important. Just being in these positions and being able to change the culture of policing so those things don't happen at these agencies that we've seen happen across the country.
No doubt, no doubt. So, what's next for you, Chief Green?
But man, I got a 5-year plan, and this is something else I tell a lot of young police officers: make sure you get into this profession and you have a plan, that retirement plan. And so, my goal is to be with the agency, to see it through, um, uh, where we've got an opportunity to build a new public safety building. And that is one thing that I want to really be around to really uh, see a new building come up and be able to put my stamp on what that building would look like, and
Yeah,
and to be able to leave, and for that next person who comes in, and hopefully it's somebody internally who can move up through the ranks and become the next police chief. But that's my goal, is the next be here 6 years and see a lot of growth in the department, and see a brand new public safety building. And you know uh, Minnesota's too cold, brother. I'm not planning on I'm not planning on buying a home and me and the family staying here for the next 10 years or so. But go back to Oklahoma, where it gets cold and it snows, but it
that's what
does
I was
not
gonna
get
say.
that cold. It don't
Doesn't
get
get
that
us.
cold, bro. Yeah, yeah. By the
Yeah.
time the cold
Well,
front
you
reaches,
got the wind blowing off the lakes and all that up in Minnesota, right?
yeah, yeah, you do. And
Yeah.
so by the time that cold front comes out of Canada down to Minnesota to Iowa to Kansas, by the time it gets to Oklahoma, man, it's not that bad. So
Well, it's not cold, but it's
the tornadoes.
it's
So
tornado.
yeah, Dale, I told people, man, I'd rather deal with the tornado than deal with a blizzard.
Really?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. And people look at me like, man, you got to be crazy. And the thing of it is, the tornado kind of goes away. But it may leave a path of destruction. Now, blizzard, it gets minus 25 degrees, and you got to
Yep.
deal with all that snow. You're looking at snow for months. And actually, Dale, my grandkids are here with us, and it snowed on Easter Sunday in April. Yeah, when you sit there and you think about, wait a second,
Yeah.
in April
Yeah.
it's snowing, and so and so
Yeah.
that'll make you want to definitely find another state to retire in.
Yeah. But the summer's got to be beautiful. The summers
Oh
and the
yeah,
springs.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
man. Like right now, man. It is nice. The fall colors are coming in the summer, spring and summer. It's a great state to be in. I'm not a big person who's into fishing and being out on the lake, but man, they say they got 10,000 lakes in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Now, we all watched the Prince movie, Purple
I was
Rain,
gonna bring that up. Lake Minnetonka, right?
Lake Minnetonka. And so actually, Dale, I thought Lake Minnetonka was just, something he just made up. And so when I drove in that Sunday, and I saw a sign that says Lake Minnetonka, and I called my wife back and I said, "Hey, there is a real Lake Minnetonka," and people were just like, I'm just like a kid, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we're used to Lake Minnetonka, and we're not too far from it." So, yeah,
Yeah.
Minnesota's known for 10,000 lakes, but I think the famous one is Lake Minnetonka.
Yep. That's dope because the greatest artist in my profession, in my opinion, Prince. There. You ever get a chance to go to Paisley Park?
Yeah, yeah, we have. We've been there once. We went through the gift shop. We didn't take the tour, and that's something that we're going to go back and do because you know, we all grew up on Prince and definitely
Yep.
the Purple Rain, but just to go inside of that of this home and the museum is an experience. So yeah, man. So when I go, I'll take some photos and send them to you.
All right. Yeah. Just everyone's got
or
their
or
legacy.
or if you ever make
Yeah.
it out to Minnesota, man, you definitely got to come by and
That's what's up. That's what I want. Yeah, I want to check that out. I want to check
yeah,
that out for sure, for sure.
yeah.
Because your podcast partner's out in Memphis, so he can go see Graceland, and then you could go see Paisley Park for
But
Prince. And
yeah,
then I think out here, I think they tore down Neverland or whatever it was called, where Michael Jackson was at.
yeah,
I'm not quite sure. I think they did tear it down or
yeah. They did.
something
Yeah.
like that.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's
Yeah.
crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, Chief. Hey, I appreciate you coming on and spending some
Yeah.
time
Definitely
with
thank
me.
the invite, man. Definitely appreciate it.
Yeah, some good knowledge, and hey, I appreciate you. And if you can't root for the Minnesota Vikings, root.
What's your team? What's your
You
team,
get.
man?
I'm a Niner. That's what I was gonna say. Maybe
Oh,
you should
okay.
root for my team, even though
Well,
I think Minnesota beat up on us already this year. So
yeah,
they
yeah.
looking
Well,
good already this year.
I got some family and friends who are 49ers fans, so
All right, we accepting everybody on the bandwagon. So come on
yeah,
on,
yeah,
come on on.
yeah, yeah. Well, man, this has been great, and
Yeah, Chief, I
yeah,
appreciate you.
and the fact that we were in the same, we were in Las Vegas at the same time, man, it just feels a small world that we're in. So,
Small world.
so next time I'm somewhere, I'm gonna have to say, hey, man, are you here? You know,
Yeah. You be in France. Are you here? You
yeah,
never know. You never know. You never know.
yeah,
All
yeah.
right,
All
Chief. You
right,
enjoy the rest of your weekend. All right. You take care
all right,
now.
all right. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate you.
All right, thank you.
All right, now another great interview with another great guest. Let me thank Golden Valley, Minnesota Police Chief Virgil Green for dropping some knowledge on us today. It was a pleasure, sir, and I wish you continued success up there in Minnesota. You guys out there like my conversation with Chief Green as much as I did, please let me know by leaving a comment in the comment section down there below. I'll be back before you know it with another great interview just like this one. But till then, hey, y'all know the phrase, stay black in blue. I'll holler at you. Peace.
This has been a Maitre D Entertainment presentation.